The South African Social Security Agency, SASSA, says it will introduce mandatory biometric enrolment for those who don't have South African IDs. According to SASSA, this will improve their security systems. This new system will also be applicable to those using alternative identification and to those whose personal information is still under review. Joining us now for more on the story is SASSA spokesperson Paseka Letsatsi. It's a great pleasure talking to you, as always, sir. And what can you tell us about this new mandatory biometric enrolment? But this is particularly for people who don't have ID documents.
Good afternoon, Michelle, and thanks for having me. You're quite right. This is basically for people who do not have your 13-digit ID book. We have seen in the past wherein people who don't have this particular documents, the fraudsters in particular, have identified this particular area to penetrate it and start defrauding the grant payment system. So we have taken a decision because in the interaction between SASSA and the National Treasury, we had to make sure that we tighten up our systems to make sure that we close the taps for those who are trying to steal the public purse.
And this initiative comes into effect early next month, so the week after next Monday.
Yeah, yes, definitely. It's coming in effect. We thought it also important for us to make sure that we go out to the public and inform them so that when we start to implement this program, people do not tell us that they were not aware. We thought let's go out and inform the public. But secondly, we also trained some of our staff so that they are able to make sure that when people come to do the verification process in terms of the biometric, are able to help them, and we do not necessarily have queues, but we think where we are as an organization, we can be able to handle the situation.
So Mr. Letsatsi, if I am one of those people who does not have a South African ID, how do I go about enrolling for mandatory biometric testing?
They would have to come to the office of SASSA like anybody else who make an application, and there are certain processes which will take the individual, and because we want to make sure that this is indeed the person who claims that they are, would then be left, we're left with no option as an organization to make sure that we take them through this particular system. But obviously, when you apply for a grant, you come to a SASSA office, we also expect them to come to the office and actually verify if indeed they are not defrauding the system.
Yeah, and I understand it's also part of trying to eliminate people who are using the profiles of people who have died.
Definitely, we have that. There are people who do identity theft. They steal people's IDs. Others, obviously, because we enroll in our system the refugees, and we use a particular number to make sure that they get enrolled as they apply for the social grant. So we have taken a decision as an organization, basically to make sure that we close and make sure that whoever comes and claim that this is the real person goes through the process. I'm sure, Michelle, we may have witnessed in the past where people steal IDs, where people try to bypass the system. So we're trying to make sure that our system are able to make sure that they close them and we protect the purse of the public.
Yeah, and make sure that all that money goes to people who actually deserve it. And then, Mr. Letsatsi, you and I have been talking for some months now about the switch over to the black postbank cards. I understand that the 31st of May deadline has now been scrapped altogether, and the gold SASSA cards will continue to work.
Michelle, you are quite right. We have exhausted this particular matter, but remember, the beneficiaries of social grant are beneficiaries of SASSA, and if there are delays in terms of migrating them, our point is that whatever happens, it must not put the beneficiaries of social grants who are beneficiaries of SASSA, they must not find themselves going to the office or going to the banks trying to get their money, and when they get it, they are told that the money is not in their account. So our interest was to make sure that the beneficiaries of social grant get what is due to them. And in this instance, while there is the negotiations between the Post Bank together with the regulator, we think it must not affect our beneficiaries negatively.